Today's lesson is called The Signalman. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff.
My name is Roger, and today we're going to continue talking about the Charles Dickens story, The Signalman, which was published way back in 1866. You can probably find the original story online somewhere. And right now we're going to give you a synopsis of the synopsis. Okay, so we've got this traveler on a hillside, and he sees a signalman down there next to the railway. He goes down there to talk to him, and the signalman was kind of hesitant at first to talk to the traveler, but eventually they started chatting, and eventually the phone was ringing, or there wasn't a phone back at that time, but there were some bells and whistles in the signal box there, and it looked like the signalman was scared, was frightened of something. The traveler wanted to know why, but the signalman said, well, I'll tell you about this the next time you come to visit.
Now, did any of this make sense? Not really, okay? A lot of stuff happened in the first part of our lesson that has not yet been resolved. For that reason, yes, the tension is building up. We've got a spooky story, a scary story. We've got to figure out what the heck is going on. Was the traveler in the tunnel? Oh, what's the signalman so scared of? I just don't know. The signalman so far has thrown me for a loop. I'm a little bit confused, but in a good way. It's a good story. I want to learn more. I want to read on. Anyways, folks, let's go ahead and read on. We'll do so right after this.
When the traveler returned the following evening, the signalman revealed a strange figure had appeared several times outside the tunnel. The first time, it called out, "Hello, below there," the exact words the traveler had used. That was why the signalman had thought they'd met before. The signalman said the figure had covered his eyes with one arm and waved violently with the other as he had said those words. Watching the signalman mimicking those gestures, the traveler thought they communicated the message, "For God's sake, clear the way."
大家好，第一部分我们看到动词 mimic 指模仿、仿效。例如 Jordan mimicked the TV show character and made everyone laugh. Jordan 模仿电视节目的角色，把大家逗得哈哈笑。另外，补充一个同义动词 imitate, I-M-I-T-A-T-E, imitate. 举例来说 Parrots can imitate many sounds from the human and natural world. 鹦鹉会模仿人类和大自然中的许多声音。
Okay, so remember, the signalman said that he would tell the traveler the story when he came to visit the next time. So when the traveler returned the following evening, the signalman kept his promise and revealed a strange figure had appeared several times outside the tunnel. Okay, so the traveler did not know about this the first time he was there, but now the signalman is telling him the truth. He revealed that, well, I tell you what, here's what happened. I have seen this figure outside the tunnel several times. A strange figure, which means a person standing there. Maybe it's a person. When we say a strange figure, we generally mean a person, but we're not for sure 100% that it is a person. It probably is, but we can't really tell who it is. We can't really tell if it's a boy or a girl, but we just know there's someone standing there. And what the heck is it doing outside the tunnel? This is in the countryside. It's a railway. It's for trains and not pedestrians. What the heck is a figure doing there outside the tunnel? That is really weird.
You could have also said a strange form. And like Roger said, when you see a figure like this or a form, what you're saying is that, oh, I can tell that it's a human form or figure. I can tell that that's a person, but I have no idea who they are. And apparently they're also acting strangely. So the signalman's thinking, why is this strange figure next to the tunnel? He shouldn't be there. It's dangerous for him. It could be bad for either him or for the people on the train. Who knows? Something strange is going on. And there's even more, okay? Remember on day one, from above, the traveler had called down to the signalman, okay? Now, apparently he used some words that kind of stood out. Yes, it says here the first time it called out, "Hello, below there." Exactly what the traveler had shouted down to the signalman there on day one. Hence the confusion, I guess.
Yeah, what a coincidence. Although this is probably what someone would call out, but you never know. There are various things you could say to get someone's attention. Hey there. Hey, you over there. Hey, hello. How you doing? But hello, below there. That might be a little more rare, so it might be quite difficult, and that is why the signalman was suspicious. That's why he suspected that he had seen the traveler before, and again, they spoke the exact same words. Now, that was why the signalman had thought they'd met before. That's why he suspected that he had seen the traveler before, and the signalman said the figure had covered his eyes with one arm and waved violently with the other as he had said those words. Now, that's kind of unusual, okay? Why would you cover your eyes with one arm when you're calling out to someone? Usually, if you're calling out to someone, you are looking at that other person to see if they respond to you, okay? You are not going to cover your eyes because you still want to see. So that's rather unusual. And then waving violently with the other arm is also kind of unusual as well, although I guess if you're trying to get someone's attention, you might be waving your arms at the same time. But again, the really weird thing is that the person calling out had actually covered his eyes with one arm. That is weird. That is bizarre. It is strange. It is unusual.
Was this strange figure trying to convey something, trying to signal something to the signalman? Interesting. Now, watching the signalman mimicking those gestures, the traveler thought they communicated the message, "For God's sake, clear the way." So the signalman is good at making signals. He's mimicking, or he copied what that strange figure had been doing or what that figure had done earlier. And the traveler saw the signalman do that and said, "You know what? I think I know what is going on here. I think I know what the signal or what these gestures mean." They kind of communicated the message, "Oh my goodness, for God's sakes, get out of the way, clear the way." Maybe a train is coming through the tunnel, so everybody needs to clear the way or to get out of the way. Anyways, here it says that the signalman is mimicking these gestures. To mimic is to act like someone or to copy their gestures in some way. So here, if the signalman is mimicking this particular person, he's doing what that person had done earlier. Now, my brother, when I was growing up, was a very good mimic. Yes, you can mimic someone. That would be the word being used as a verb, or you can also be a mimic. And basically what that means is that my brother was very good at doing imitations, okay? He was good at imitating other people, and he always got us to laugh when he was doing his mimicking or when he was doing his impersonations. Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
The signalman had tried to question the figure, but it disappeared, and later a fatal train crash had occurred. The figure appeared again months later. That appearance was followed by the death of a woman on a train. Then the figure came back a week ago and appeared now and again. The traveler urged the signalman to get some rest, believing he'd imagined everything.
第二部分我们看到单字 urge，这个字是动词，指力劝、敦促，像是 urge somebody to 加动词，表示力劝某人去点点点。例如 I urge you to think carefully before deciding to quit college. 我力劝你在决定大学休学前先仔细想一想。另外，这个字也可以当名词，指强烈的欲望、冲动，像是 Diane fought back the urge to laugh. Diane 忍住了笑的冲动。再补充两个包含 urge 的相关片语。第一 urge on 表示激励、鼓舞。举例来说 Penny urged her sister on as they rode their bicycles up the steep hill. Penny 在和妹妹一起骑脚踏车上斜坡时不断鼓励她。第二 urge for something 表示极力主张点点点。我们可以说 The students at the school are urging for a better menu in the cafeteria. 该校的学生极力主张学校自助餐厅要提供更好的菜色。
Okay, so in the second part of our lesson for today, the signalman continues to tell the traveler about the strange figure standing outside the tunnel. So here the signalman says that he had tried to question the figure, but it disappeared, and later a fatal train crash had occurred. So again, the signalman is telling the traveler what happened. The signalman had tried to question the figure. Notice here we're using past perfect tense here, had tried, because we're talking about what happened before between the traveler and the signalman, and the signalman is going even further back in time, so that's why we use past perfect here, using it to describe an action that already took place in the past. So the signalman says that, yeah, I tried to question, or the signalman had tried to question the figure. I tried to ask the figure who he was, what he was doing there, and stuff like that. But the figure disappeared as if it were a ghost. And then later on, a fatal train crash had occurred. Had occurred. There's past perfect again. So it was a fatal train crash which had occurred. Fatal means someone died.
Fatal. If something is fatal, it kills someone or it kills you. You could say that the boxer struck a fatal blow in the bout. Now, usually boxers don't kill each other, but every once in a while there's a tragedy. Yes, a fighter might die because they receive a fatal blow. Now, apparently the figure appeared that one time, and then the figure appeared again months later. So the signalman tried to question the figure, but it disappeared. Then there was the crash, and then the figure came back again.
Well, it sounds like it's the Grim Reaper or something like that, the god of death or something. It keeps showing up right before someone dies. So again, that appearance was followed by the death of a woman on a train. Maybe she had a heart attack or something like that, or was shot, we don't know. Then the figure came back a week ago and appeared now and again, which means occasionally. Okay, the figure did return about a week ago and disappeared and came back, disappeared, came back over several days. So that's what now and again means, just occasionally, once in a while.
Infrequently. You probably couldn't schedule this person's arrival on the scene. The figure every once in a while pops up and then disappears. And I imagine that if you were the signalman, that this would be kind of stressful. Every time this figure appears, someone dies, and now the figure's back. It's popping up now and again. Yes, this would probably make me worry as well if I were the signalman. Now, the traveler apparently is a nice guy. On day one of our lesson, he reassured the signalman, and now the traveler urged the signalman to get some rest, believing he'd imagined everything. There, your mind is playing tricks on you. Get some rest, and you'll feel better. You're just imagining all of these things because you were under a lot of pressure and stress. So yes, here the traveler urged the signalman to get some rest, i.e., I advise you to do this very strongly. I think that this is a good idea. This is something that you should do.
Yep. For example, I ran into some travelers here in Taiwan, and they asked me, hey, what should we do while we're here in Taipei? Well, I said, hey, I urge you to go check out the Palace Museum. There are some really wonderful things to check out there. Or I urge you to go to Taroko Gorge. There's nothing like it in the world. But in this particular case, the traveler heard the signalman's story and he thought, gee, this guy's been working out here in the middle of nowhere for too long. He's working too hard. He hasn't had enough rest. He's imagining things. So the traveler urged the signalman to get some rest, maybe take a vacation or something, because the traveler believed that the signalman had imagined everything. You're just seeing it. It's not really there. You just need some rest, and then everything will go back to normal.
Okay, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. When we come back, we'll wrap up The Signalman.
When the traveler returned the following evening, he learned a passing train killed the signalman. The engine driver of that train had yelled, "Below there! Look out! Look out! For God's sake, clear the way!" He had also waved frantically at the signalman, who had been standing at the mouth of the tunnel. To avoid seeing the impact, the engine driver had covered his eyes with his arm. The news of the signalman's death, and the coincidences surrounding it, filled the traveler with shock.
第三部分，我们看到副词 frantically， 意思是拼命的、发狂似的。举例来说 ，The survivors waved frantically to the passing ship。生还者拼命地向经过的船挥手。另外，这个字去掉字尾 ALL+， 就成了形容词 frantic， 指紧张慌乱的、发狂似的。像是 After hearing gunshots right outside of her house, Janet was frantic. Janet 听到屋外有枪声后，非常慌乱不安。或是 Kevin was frantic to find a gift for his girlfriend when he realized it was her birthday. Kevin 发现他女友的生日到了，紧张发狂似的找她的礼物。接着，我们看到单字 impact， 这个字是名词，意思是撞击力、碰撞、影响。例如 When the bottle fell to the floor, the impact caused it to break. 当瓶子掉到地上后，撞击力使它碎掉了。或是 My uncle always gave me great advice, and it had an impact on my life. 我叔叔总是给我很受用的忠告，对我的人生有所影响。另外，这个字也可以当动词，念作 impact， 像是 Use of toxic chemicals impacts the environment. 使用有毒化学物会影响生态环境。最后，我们看到名词 coincidence， 意思是巧合，像是 His showing up in need of money just as you win the lottery is no coincidence. 在你赢了乐透彩之后，他马上出现说要钱，这件事并非巧合。
Okay, so we've got this traveler walking around in the English countryside, and he keeps passing this railway on top of a hill. So when the traveler returned the following evening, he learned a passing train killed the signalman.
Oh, no. Goodness, that's terrible. So, yes, this figure appeared, and this really spooked the signalman. Yes, whenever this figure appears, someone dies, and it turns out that this time, yes, someone died, and it was the signalman who received a fatal blow from a train, or something terrible happened to him that resulted in his death. Anyways, the engine driver of that train had yelled, "Below there, look out, for God's sake, clear the way." So there we go. We have an echoing of the same phrase, just like we did before with the hello below there. Now we also have, "For God's sake, clear the way," repeating itself similarly. How spooky.
And he had also waved frantically at the signalman who had been standing at the mouth of the tunnel. So this also, again, is what the engineer of the train did, or the engine driver, I should say. Yes, he called out, "Hey, get out of the way, for God's sake, clear the way." And he was also waving frantically. Okay, frantic means as if you're crazy. It's kind of wild, you're kind of crazy, you're kind of frantic, and here it's being used as an adverb. He waved his arms frantically, as if there was really something terrible that was about to happen, but it was no use. The train still struck the signalman because he was standing at the mouth of the tunnel on the tracks. And we've got the mouth of the tunnel, which basically means the entrance to the tunnel, but the train was coming out of the tunnel. And I guess that's why the signalman did not see the train coming, although he should have heard it coming. Those things are actually quite loud.
Moving on, the next sentence says, to avoid seeing the impact, the engine driver had covered his eyes with his arm. So there's another one of those details that repeats itself. How spooky. Before we talked about the signal where someone covers their eyes and then waves frantically. Well, we had the frantic waving, and now we also have someone covering their eyes. Yes, the reason that this person, the engine driver, had covered their eyes was to avoid seeing the impact. He didn't want to see the train crash into the signalman. That would have been too gruesome a sight to see, so he covered his eyes. He didn't want to see the impact, the instance of something crashing into something else.
Yep, it wasn't going to be a pretty sight, so he covered his eyes with his arm, and that sounds very much like the signalman's initial description of that dark figure. And the news of the signalman's death and the coincidences surrounding it filled the traveler with shock. A coincidence is when something the same occurs, but it's not really supposed to. The chances of it happening are very low. We often talk about coincidences in life when we run into someone. Gee, what are you doing here in the middle of Bangkok, Thailand? You're my classmate from junior high school, and I've just run into you here in Bangkok. What a coincidence. What are the chances of that happening?
Yeah, I was just thinking of you, and here you are. What a coincidence. Wow, how spooky. And yes, very often coincidences are spooky. And in this particular story here, the news of the signalman's death and all these coincidences surrounding it, it filled the traveler with shock. I'm sure they got a good scare. All right, folks, with that, today's lesson is now in the books, and it's time for you guys to hear from the Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文写到，隔天晚上旅人回来找信号员，信号员说有一个奇怪的人影出现在隧道外面好几次，还跟旅人说了一模一样的话。 That was why the signalman had thought they'd met before. 那就是为什么信号员认为他们以前有见过面。那句子里面用到 why the signalman had thought they'd met before. 这是用 why 引导的名词子句来当主词补语。那我们来学习这样的用法。好 ，WH 疑问词像是 what, who, when, where, why, how 等等，可以引导名词子句。在句中呢，这个名词子句是当主词啊、受词或者是主词补语用。举例来说 ，Do you know where my glasses are？ 你知道我的眼镜在哪里吗？那这时候名词子句 where my glasses are， 它是当受词用，也就是当动词 know 的受词。好，那如果我们现在要用 WH 疑问词所引导的名词子句来当主词补语，常见的用法是主词加上 be 动词加上 why, where 或是 how 等等，再加主词加动词来表达说什么什么就是什么什么的原因，就是什么什么的地点，就是什么什么的方式。那我们来造3个例句。 This is where we used to live. 这就是我们以前住的地方。那这时候这个名词子句 where we used to live 就是当主词补语用。 That's how we met， 那就是我们相遇的方式。那么名词子句是 how we met。 还有 This is why I didn't go to the dance party， 这就是我没有去参加舞会的原因。那这边名词子句是 why I didn't go to the dance party。好，信号员接着说，那个人影在讲话的时候啊，一只手臂遮住眼睛，另一只手臂用力的挥舞，这似乎在传达说 For God's sake, clear the way， 拜托快让开。好，我们这边来看一下 For God's sake， 它是表达说看在上帝的份上，看在老天份上，可以用来表达惊讶、愤怒或者是不耐烦的语气。好，那对许多信仰虔诚的人来说，直呼上帝的名称是不敬的行为，所以他们可能会用 For Pete's sake 或者是 For heaven's sake 等等，他们也可以用来表达这种不耐烦的说法。好，那么还有一个说法是 for crying out loud。 举例来说 For crying out loud, stop asking me so many questions。 立马帮忙，拜托不要再问我这么多问题好吗？所以这个 for crying out loud 就可以表达那种不耐烦的语气咯。好，另外帮同学们补充一下 for the sake of 的用法。好， for the sake of 之后它可以接人或是事物来表达为了什么，由于什么什么的缘故。你也可以把它写成 for somebody's sake 或者是 for something's sake。 好，来看2个例句。 For the sake of your health, you should add more vegetables to your diet。 为了你的健康着想，你应该在日常饮食中来多加一点蔬菜。或是像 Nina moved back to her hometown for her parents' sake。 Nina 为了父母的缘故搬回家乡住了。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
mimic. Certain kinds of birds, like parrots, are very good at mimicking people. Fatal. Some types of allergies can be fatal. Urge. Sam's friends urged him to give up smoking and start caring more about his health. Frantically. Kate searched frantically for her dog when it got lost in the woods. Impact. He was knocked unconscious by the impact of the car crash. Coincidence. It was a coincidence that Rob and I were taking the same flight home.
Discussion starter starts now!
All right, folks, it's time for our discussion starter. Hey, Roger, what do you think the figure in the tunnel could be?
Well, I think the figure was a ghost, probably from the future, because maybe the signalman knew that he was going to die at some point, so this figure came to sort of let him know that it was really going to happen and there was nothing he could do to stop it. How about you?
Gosh, the figure in the tunnel could be a number of things, but I do think the signalman was overworked and he kind of felt at some level that he was going to die in this tunnel. He felt that was going to happen. Maybe his job was dangerous in that way and he'd seen enough deaths, so he kind of thought that was going to happen to him as well. So I think he might have imagined this, and the stress probably helped him to do so. He started seeing these things because of stress and because he knew at some level that yes, the tunnel would be the end of him. Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.